Welcome. Thank you all so much for joining me today for this exciting Library and Archives lunch hour. My name is Oscar Zamora Flores. I am project archivist here at Centro, and I worked on processing this collection from May through November 2024. And I feel like I am very lucky to have been able to work on this kind of project, on this collection. I remember being in graduate school and wishing to work for an organization for Centro. So this is like a real dream come true. And honestly, I feel very, very lucky to have processed Ibrahim González papers because he was an iconic, passionate human being who had so much to give, truly. So today I will share with you the amazing story of Ibrahim González and highlight material in this collection that I think is important or things that are my favorite. And trust me, we could be here for hours and hours, but we have a short time together. So if you have any questions, please don't forget to leave them in the chat and I will answer them in the Q&A section at the end. So first, right? So who was Ibrahim González, right? I think when I was thinking of how to introduce Ibrahim, I had a really hard time because how can I summarize his life in a couple sentences, right? I think I will try my best, but with his inspiration, uh, uh, I can say Ibrahim was a Puerto Rican, or as he would have described himself, a proud Boricua, Nuyorican with a passion for passion and a taste for taste. This sentence is from his YouTube channel. And he was a trailblazer, a multifaceted artist from East Harlem. And he's very well known. He's well known because he played a very important role in founding Alianza Islámica, the most influential Latino-Muslim organization in New York City, right? So what's his background? Where did everything start, right? So Ibrahim, formerly known as Freddy, was born on January 22nd, 1956 in East Harlem. According to an interview conducted by Fabrice Vincent on the Bronx Journal, Ibrahim was very much influenced by all the social movements in the city, and in his teenage years, he actually joined the Young Lords, so he was part of that, which I think is really, really cool. In his book, Alianza Islámica, Spanish's Harlem Islamic Odyssey, Rahim Ocasio describes how Ibrahim González and his friends met Abdullahi Rodriguez, one of the first Puerto Rican converts to Islam, during a celebration of the release of Carlos Feliciano in East Harlem, like right here on 116th Street. And Abdullahi acted as their spiritual guide, and in the next couple of years, Ibrahim and his friends converted to Islam. Um, so during his first years in the late 1970s, Ibrahim and his friends performed dawah, the practice of sharing, spreading the message of Islam, and inviting people to join the faith. The journey was not easy, and actually, in 1979, efforts to establish the first Spanish-speaking mosque was met with resistance from established non-Latino Muslim groups. So this actually led to their efforts losing momentum, right? So and then by the early 1980s, Ibrahim worked on for the ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, in their Indiana headquarters. So he moved there, and during this time there, he took an initiative um, and worked on translating a popular dawah, again, sharing faith, and produce a brochure into Spanish, looking to have it published, but the leadership at ISNA refused, right? But before I move on, I would like to mention that Rahim Ocasio's book, Alianza Islámica, Spanish Harlem's Islamic Odyssey, has been very, very helpful in reconstructing the journey of Ibrahim and everyone else during this time. So if you have some time, I would suggest you give it a read. I think it's really cool. It's very important. I think that from my perspective, I didn't know that there were any Muslim Puerto Ricans, so it's just so cool that this collection enters Centro and has, like, there's another perspective to Puerto Rican life in New York City. I think it's super cool. So give it a read. I highly encourage you. So shortly after, when Ibrahim returned to New York City, with more energy than ever, he wanted to change things for Latino Muslims. So in 1985, Ibrahim came up with the idea of planning an event highlighting the legacy of Islam in Latin culture. And this event took place at El Museo del Barrio, and it was titled Reclamando Nuestra Herencia Islámica, Reclaiming Our Muslim Heritage. So in these photos right here, you can sort of see what the event looked like. All of these photos are courtesy of Alianza Islámica. They have a blog also where they highlight different stories of how the journey was back in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and I think it's really cool. These photos are from them. They're photos from the event, and you can actually see Ibrahim right here with the congas, and right there, he's right here, right? And I think it's so cool, right? Like the Puerto Rican flag. I think it's beautiful. I'm pretty sure it was so lively. So during this event, right, uh, Ibrahim and his friends met Carl Askia El Amin from the BISM Rabic Foundation in Chicago, and then Daniel Ahmed Mena from Florida, who gave them a plethora of Spanish language Islamic books that they did not know about. So this was like critical for them, right? And after so actually what happened at the event, um uh this is a little highlight again from Alianza Islámica. There's more photos of what happened, some books, and then again we have a little description about what happened at that seminar slash event. So we actually TB Irving is a Muslim. He studies Muslim Islam, and then he talked about the the influence of Islam in the U.S. through Muslim artisans and through the Spanish colonialism. So it's really cool. Unfortunately, I think that this is very limited to I think that this is all I could find about the events, but I feel like if anybody has any more information or photos or recordings about this event, I think it will be really cool if you could share it with everybody, right? So um, after that, actually after the event, a tri-city collaboration developed, and this became the first iteration of Alianza Islámica. And its first product of this Alianza was the first bilingual Islamic journal, which was also named Alianza Islámica, which the Bismic Rabic Foundation published quarterly, and it was led by Carl at the main office in Chicago. And Ibrahim González and Daniel Ahmed Mena were the associate editors of the journal, right? Um, and unfortunately, we don't have the original journals of Alianza Islámica, but I did find the cover of the very first, the primer tema, the very first issue, which is right here on the left. I found it right here. And then, but we do have something a little bit more recent. I'm I'm not sure when this one was created, La Oración, but this publication is an introduction to those who are looking for spiritual guidance through Islam, and it gives a translation of the prayer and a step-by-step on prayer, which I think is really, really cool. When I first was processing and I came across it, I was like, so I think it was so cool because I could finally understand prayer, and I think it was really good. I think that they did a really good job. Um, so, but going back, sure, this is actually um, um, the first storefront that Alianza Islámica was on. So actually, this is really close to here. This is the storefront of Alianza Islámica, which was located on 1717 Lexington Avenue on 100 between 107th and 108th Street. And their mission, right now that they had a storefront, their mission was to spread the word of Islam, but also offered other programs for the community like the GED, ESL, health and nutrition, and even martial arts, which I think was so cool. And during these events, Ibrahim and others used to animate the festivities by playing music. So you can see that Ibrahim always had music around him, and like he was always trying to play music, right? So actually, shortly after, in the summer of 1986, Ibrahim González was invited to attend the ISNA Annuals Convention, where he addressed a seminar on future strategies for Dawah in North America, and held a presentation on ISNA Hispanic Dawah program. And we have to remember that this is really important because ISNA refused to publish those the translation of Dawa brochures that he worked on, and but now he was invited to speak to them and address them, and then think about the future of what Islam could be like if Hispanics were included, and I think that that's really really cool, right? Um, and this is during the 19, and then like moving towards the 1990s, Ibrahim was still very much part of Islam. It was part of his life, part of who he was, but it was during this time where he started focusing more on his passions, the arts. This was a critical time in his career, and I think he truly did it all. He was a musician. If we try to put tags to his multifaceted persona, he was a musician, he was a radio producer, a video producer, a photographer, an educator, and a writer. So I think this is one of the things that it's the coolest in the collection to me, because I think it reflects him. But yeah, so in moving on, in 1999, in 1989, Ibrahim graduated from City College, where he studied music. And in 1990, he started working for WAI Pacifica Radio, where he worked for over 20 years. And he would eventually go on to produce radio shows like In the Moment, in Barrio Blog, Radio Libre, In the Moment, Radio Nameable, Readings from the Heart, which was a radio show that focused on like spirituality. And he mentioned a lot of Islam. And then Ritmo con H, and of course, live from Nuyorican Poets Cafe, which I think was really, really cool. And then he would actually end up reporting for Bronx Net. And if this loads, I will play a short video so you can talk to him talk about his passions for Latin music, and I think it's so cool. And in the video, you can actually see hear how like the radio show host and him and Ibrahim knew each other from many events before. So I think it's so cool. Let me play it for you.
Sabor en Tarima, Nueva York. Hoy nos encontramos con un gran amigo de la radio, con Ibrahim González. Es un hombre puertorriqueño, pero enclavado totalmente aquí en Nueva York. El saludo para la gente de Sabor en Tarima, Ibrahim.
Bueno, saludo a la gente. Y en Colombia, mira, tengo un aprecio para la cultura colombiana. Me encanta la cultura colombiana y también la comida, la música, tantos ritmos en Colombia que quiero conocer mejor. Aquí estamos en el estudio de consola de WBAI, Radio Pacífica en Nueva York. Cumplimos 50 años de operación este año. Sí. Y yo cumplo 54 años también. Entonces estamos celebrando mi cumpleaños y también el aniversario de la estación a la vez.
¿Cuánto tiempo, Ibrahim, aquí en la radio dedicado?
Yo aquí 20 años.
20 años, exactamente. Sí. Trabajando con la música internacional.
Cierto.
Ajá. Y me imagino que uno de tus ritmos más queridos tiene que ser la salsa.
Seguro que sí.
Bueno, no, sigue, es que estamos aquí en vivo y estás haciendo tu trabajo también.
La salsa, el jazz latino, música del Caribe, música de Sudamérica, de Centroamérica, de México. Me encanta toda nuestra música latina.
Y te hemos encontrado en varios eventos. Ahí nos hemos encontrado algunas veces, tú haciendo tu trabajo y nosotros el propio. Pero lo que queremos también es destacar ese cubrimiento a la salsa dura, ¿verdad?
Seguro, mantener la cultura, las tradiciones, pero también introducir lo nuevo.
Yes, so you can actually see, I love this video because I came across his YouTube channel, and there are so many jewels about, so we actually hold like over 3,000 different recordings of his radio shows and different projects that he worked on. But we don't have the equipment to play them. And so when I came across his YouTube channel, just hearing his voice, right? I knew, like, I read of him, I had gone through his papers, but I had not listened to his voice. So I think it was really special to hear him talk and like just like put like a voice to all the writings that I see. I think it was really, really cool. I just want to say, Janet Norquist is the widow of Ibrahim González, and she's here joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Janet. Uh, I met her a couple months ago, and oh my God, it was such a treat talking to her about Ibrahim and showing her how the collection was going. Yeah, there's so many things. I feel like the collection, maybe this is I'm getting ahead of myself, but the collection is really cool, and I can see the different gaps that are in the collection, right? There's so many things that I know about his life through researching, but they're not necessarily reflected on the collection. So I am hoping that actually I've reached out to several organizations that are about like Muslim Puerto Ricans or ISNA. I reached out to them to see if they have any of the material that Ibrahim worked on, and I feel like that will be really, really cool, right? Because um, most of the things that reflect Islam in Ibrahim's papers are very much about his personal stuff, not necessarily about the things that he worked on, like the journal. So I think that that's really cool. That's something that is missing, and I would love if we had it. I feel like it would be really cool for people to do research on, to talk about, to do some programming around that. I feel like it'll be really cool. So thank you, Janet, for joining us. Yeah, I think that will be so cool. I would love that. Um, yeah. So going back to music, right? Ibrahim, music was one of his passions, right? And he actually worked on so many things. So he was a music producer, and he has his own original works and other works, right? He was an artist. I think artist is a short, like, le queda chiquita la palabra because he was so complete. I really admire him. But he has his original work. So number one on the left side we have Bembe en Ramadan, which is an original song that he created. It's so cool. We have it. And we also have a play, Blog Salsero play, something that he wrote, and I found it, and I think it was even cooler. And then we have Si no te hubiera conocido, another song that he composed with lyrics from Carlos Adorno. So I think it'll be really cool. And something very, very interesting is that Bembe en Ramadan was performed by the Westchester Philharmonic, conducted by Paul Dunkel at Sunny Purchase Performance Arts Center on April 6, 1995. We have the recording, but unfortunately it's not digitized. But we're hoping that maybe in the future we can digitize it and then have it available for everybody. I think that it will be a treat for everybody. Um, but there's a lot more jewels. We actually have some material that about his studying music. So I think that studying, like looking at that, you can really tell what his inspirations are and where he wants to go. So we have material about his studies in music. And then around this time, he actually led various bands. Like actually, there are so many. I feel like every time I looked at a different paper, there was always another band that he led. He led the most important ones are the ones that were out there. I think Ibrahim González Latin Jazz Quintet was one of them, Caribbean Troubadours, and the Nuyorican Jazz Experience, among many, many others. So I'm gonna play a little clip for you right here, so you can listen to what he was like.
The next number is a number that was popularized by the singer Vitín Áviles, singing under the tutelage of Mr. Charlie Palmieri, La hija de Lola.
Pasado, señores, a la hija de Lola, que ya no sale y siempre está triste y sola. Ya las vecinas están murmurando, tan alegre que era ella y ahora siempre está callada. Tal parece que la niña ha dado una mala pisada. ¿Qué le ha pasado, señores, a la hija de Lola? Que ella no sale y siempre está triste y sola. Ella que era la alegría del barrio, tan bonita muchachita, todos la querían tener y ahora que está como está, nadie la quiere querer.
But you can listen to the video on your own, and it's so cool. Like Ibrahim said, this is a rendition of La Hija de Lola by Charlie Palmieri. And I think that something is so cool, and something that I like about salsa is that there's so many Puerto Ricans that play salsa and Latin jazz, and they're all from like East Harlem, the Bronx, from the New York City state area, and uh, it's so cool that they all collaborated with each other. And actually, Ibrahim collaborated with really big names in the music world. So he played in the Ray Santos Orchestra, the Marco Rizzo Quartet with Johnny Colon, and many others. And he actually also photographed them. So the collection has some maybe unedited, never seen before photos of them, and really cool photos of maybe events that have never been seen anywhere. So if you're interested, I would say you can do some research on them, and then maybe there's some jewel to be discovered, another jewel to be discovered, right? And like I said, he also photographed them, right? So he had an eye for photography, and according to material in his archive, when I was doing research, Ibrahim said that he would assist his father, Wilfredo Gonzalez, as a photographer in weddings and portrait sittings. And so at the young age of 15, he started photographing his youth. But you know, it was the influence of his dad, but also he was mentored by Hiram Maristani, who is a well-known young lord and who is known because he documented all things young lords and life in East Harlem. So I think it's so cool that, you know, Ibrahim knew all of these people, and I love that. I think that really speaks to the sense of community that Puerto Ricans have in New York City, and I think it's something so unique and so cool. So it makes me really excited, you know, that, you know, they were like helping each other out, and I love that. Um, so um, throughout his life, Ibrahim photographed so many things, from aspects of Puerto Rican life in East Harlem, New York life, and of course Muslim life. But of course not limited. I think he did it all. And he had a few exhibitions at different places. So throughout the city, and he had an exhibition on Anthony Baez Raleigh, who was murdered in 1994 by a police officer, shown in Bronx County Courthouse. Bronx County Courthouse. So these are just some photos of the series. So we can see, you know, how people really protested against police brutality. And just going back, these are some photos. I think one of my favorites is this one, Salome. This was a play that happened in Soho, and actually Janet Norquez was part of that. So it's so cool to see her there too. This is Marco Rizzo, and this is Sheikh Nazim Al Kahim. He's there. Some weddings, and then just things happening around him. So I think it's really cool. Um, and then something one of the things that really excited me were some photos of religious trips, but specifically some religious trips that happened in London in 1981. So these are mainly depicting Sheikh Nazim Al-Kahani, was one of the most influential members of the Haqqani stream of the Naqshbandi order of Sunni Islam. So this is someone who Ibrahim admired and someone who he turned to for advice. So his papers contain some correspondence between them, and overall, like, has photos of the gatherings, and I think it's so cool. And there's such an intimate look into what was happening at the time, right? And the photos like are about family, about Sheikh Nazim and so many things. And here we can see a little una dedicatoria of this photograph. And like that, there are so many, and I think it's so cool that we got to see those. Um, so, um, but he also had other things, right? He had a floral series that he took some photos he took from 2009 to 2010, and again, these are a few. These are just four, but I think it's a series of 12. And these are some of my favorites. I think that the reds, the yellows are so vivid, and I really like them. I think my favorite one is the one on the right, but there are so many others, and they're so cool. Um, and there's another series about buildings and skies, and I think it's really cool. I wish I could show you photos of those, but those were really cool too. And when I saw them, I was like really shocked. I think it was really cool to see those. But I will leave those to another occasion maybe. But his photo collections actually were shown all over the Bronx. So from Treetop Cafe, the Bronx Tech High School, Kingsbridge Community Center, Montefiore Hospital, the Semi-Underground Gallery here in East Harlem, among many others. I think that if we were to list them, we would never end. um, so, and like I mentioned, he was an educator. So he actually, by the early 2000s, he taught various courses at Manhattan College, from music of the Caribbean, piano, Latin percussion, to digital audio and recording and editing, which I think is super cool. We actually, and I think he taught in one of the many courses he taught, he had some children that were his students, and he has like this card, just like farewell card, which is really cute, and it's photos of him and the kids. And I think it reminded me of my childhood when you made those like those kind of like cards. It was really cute, and I love it. So um, so yeah, and then like I said, he also taught at community centers in the Bronx and East Harlem. He taught at like El Barrio Manhattan Neighborhood Network, El Barrio Firehouse Community Media Center, and he was an artist in residence in 1998 at the Department of Educational Program at Carnegie Hall. And he also taught Afro-Caribbean polyrhythms at the Minder Builders Creative Center, right? But I think what caught me, I think, is Ibrahim's passion for music. I love music too, so I think that just listening to him playing and just engaging with music was really cool. Um, but his talents did not stop there. So he actually pursued journalism, and he reported for BronxNet on various issues around the Bronx. And he worked on a couple of personal documentaries, like on the all-female Afro-Caribbean dance and percussion ensemble Retumba. And he also worked on as a cameraman for Melvin Van Peebles' film in 2008. And in 2007, he produced his first hour-long documentary entitled The Promise to Teach, The Power to Learn, and where he described it as an intimate profile of Bronx middle school, striving to provide new paradigms for teaching and learning. And for those documentaries, we have a lot of behind the scenes video that did not make it into the documentary. Um, but I think it's really cool, right? Because, how can we put in an hour long, the years long struggle of this school fighting to really advance education. So I'm gonna try to play this video for you, but if you want to watch it, the rest is on his YouTube channel. So Mambo Dervish, you can Google or go on YouTube and type in Ibrahim González Mambo Dervish, and then you can see some of the things, just like a tiny fraction of all the things that he worked on.
Kristen Daly here with you. MS 180 benefits from the guidance and instruction of New York's brightest, our teachers. They teach all of the academic subjects, math, science, social studies, phys ed, on through the arts, music theater, and dance. Many of them go to the extra distance with us and coach our teams, participate in extracurricular activities, as well as field trips and special events. They respect us and they try their best to understand us. They help us with the work we might have trouble with. Our teachers inspire us to do the best and achieve our goals. So much so that some of us might go on to become teachers ourselves. Our teachers do an incredible job, so let's see how they do it.
You want to bring up the elbow just a bit, but don't. Yeah. And bring up this arm just a little bit higher. Okay. Just change the hands. And you know, you're good. But you're not giving me good right now. Actually, you're excellent. You're not giving me excellent.
But yeah, so this is a 2-minute clip. And you can watch it. It's available on his YouTube channel. And then in his audiovisual material series, one can find a lot of jewels from different projects that he worked on, some that they have lied and some that didn't. So if you're interested, perhaps you can do your own research. And I highly encourage you. I think it's so cool. Right. So I think this is something going back to Ibrahim being an artist. So some of my favorite items from Ibrahim's papers is this poem written in the back of a flyer. I imagine Ibrahim felt very overwhelmed during New York City hot summer, that the only way that he felt relief was by writing this poem. This poem is about being hot. It's so cool, right? Because it was written on June 7th, 2008, and the temperature, I did some research, and the temperature reached 94 degrees. So I can imagine how Ibrahim felt so overwhelmed by the heat that the only way he felt relief was by writing it down, you know. But just like this poem, there's another one. The other one was written on a in the back of a Chinese food paper plate, paper placemat. And I wish I had taken a photo of it, because I don't remember the content, but I just saw it. When I saw it, I was like, oh, interesting. When I was processing his collection, I thought like, oh, this is so cool, interesting. And then I kept it because, like, of course, it's like a piece of poem. It's a poem, so it was so cool. But just like this, there, like, we have his personal journals, and in his journals he really chronicles his life, and we have so many of them, and he reflects about his work, his identity, and events happening around him. And so, as you can see, Ibrahim truly was a multi-faceted, talented artist who never rested. But Ibrahim passed away in his sleep on June 3rd, 2013, after attending a fundraising event. But his legacy lives with us. And I feel extremely lucky to be able to be part of this, to be able to contribute to his legacy by processing his collection. His papers here at Centro contain personal paper, personal material like calendars, personal journals, professional materials such as poems, material used for teaching his workshops, his original music notation sheets, correspondence which gives an insight to his personal life, a plethora of photographs, negatives about his family, New York City, travels, and a photography series. Additionally, we have audio visual material which is like 30 boxes with over 3,000 items, well, with recordings from his radio shows, recordings on Islam talks, personal and original productions like demos, performances, and other miscellaneous recordings. Additionally, we have hard drives with digital material, and I think that that's so cool because that really chronicles that most likely has items, material from uh, late 2000s all the way until until he passed away. And then finally, we have an ephemera series filled with clippings on Latino Muslims and the many articles that he was interviewed for. And we have his music collection, CDs and vinyls, books on religion, and other topics. So I would say that this collection is for those researching other Puerto Rican identities, the Latin music scene from the 80s to the 2000s, and East Harlem Bronx life in general. I think it's so cool. Um, so if you would like to make an appointment to do research, please head over to centralpr.hunter.cuny.edu/library. If you would like to have access to the finding aid for this and other collections, you can head over to centralarchives.hunter.cuny.edu and search for Ibrahim González or a topic that you're interested in. And if you would like to contact me, my email is oz293@hunter.cuny.edu. So yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to head to to ask them. Q&A, let's see. Can you share tours or visits to Centro, please? Yes, of course. So you can actually head over to the same page, centropr.hunter.cuny.edu/library. You can make a visiting tour there, appointment there, and you can just sort of tell us about the focus that you would like the tour on, and then we can make that happen. What formats are the radio shows recorded on? The shows are actually recorded in so many different. We have tapes, we have mini DVs, we have CDs, we have 16. We have tapes. We have yeah, I think that's it. But we have a lot, and we have mini CDs actually. They're really cute, and they come like in so many colors. It was really cute, but we have so many. So actually, that's one of the things that it's gonna be hard when we try to digitize his collection. So it's gonna be expensive and it's gonna take a really long time for us to digitize these things. So we're hoping that money comes our way to digitize, because they're truly a jewel there. So yeah, wonderful to see. Oh, Angelo. Oh, very nice to meet you. I hope that I made some justice to Ibrahim's legacy. I think I was captivated by him. So I'm really lucky to have been able to process this collection. That was my hope ever since I was in graduate school. What personal impact did Ibrahim González have on you as you have studied his work and writings? I think this is such a good question. Thank you so much. I think that when I was reading his journals, I think that I saw his passion for music, and I think he felt my interpretation of his writings, right, that he felt sometimes a little misunderstood. So just reading how he wrote really inspired me to learn how to write. So like I've been writing on my own journals, and actually I've been also taking piano lessons, music lessons, because I think that that's maybe one way that he dealt with stuff, through music, and that really inspired me. So I think he really inspired me to like listen to more salsa, to start playing my own music, start writing, and be unapologetically me, right? I think one of his journals, I remember seeing something about he was writing about somebody saying that he was pushy or something. Um, so he said like, "Oh, I don't care if people think that I'm being pushy because I am pushing my art or something like that." And and I was like, oh wow, people really thought that. Like to me, he came across as extremely passionate, and I love that. But other people, he was maybe misunderstood. But that's my interpretation. So yeah, I'm really grateful. I think he touched my life, even though he through his material. So it was really cool. Yeah. So somebody asks, how did Islam influence his variety of interests? Is there one unifying theme or focus? I'm actually not sure. From I think he was very much drawn to the spirituality of Islam, but I'm not really sure. I haven't really come across anything that he really why was he like interested in Islam? But most likely, definitely through his uh, involvement with the young lords, something like that. I feel like if somebody uh knows, maybe we can find that through someone that was very close to him, you know. So yeah. Somebody mentions, I am a musician, JR, and close friend of Ibrahim's. We performed the week before he was called home. I am now doing work with radio podcasts. I would like to feature some of his archives. How would I like to go about that? You can definitely contact me, oz293@hunter.cuny.edu, or you can make a research appointment and we can talk about that. So, like I said, his materials undigitized, so it would it would have to be it would have to be we would have to digitize, and there's a lot of money so involved. So yeah. So yeah. And if you're a friend of Ibrahim, please, 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 please make sure that not make sure, but you're more than welcome to visit us and come, and I can show you around and we can talk about Ibrahim. I always love talking about Ibrahim. Um, but yeah, if nobody has any more questions, thank you all so much um, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you.